The light of society.
Initially, perception exists in an unformed state, represented by a dark screen. This darkness signifies the absence of conscious awareness or sensory input. A gradual transition then occurs, leading to the emergence of a visual field. This visual field indicates the initial state of awareness, where sensory information becomes present. The visual field represents the totality of what an individual can see at any given moment. It is perceived as a complete and singular expanse, not as fragmented parts. This unified field encompasses all current visual input, emphasizing its holistic nature. The brain integrates diverse sensory data into this coherent, overarching visual experience. The visual field represents the entire area that an individual can see at any given moment. It encompasses everything within the range of vision, from central focus to peripheral perception. Awareness of this field signifies the foundational nature of sight itself. This inherent visual presence exists prior to conscious recognition of specific objects. It highlights that the act of seeing is a continuous, encompassing experience. The visual field provides the raw data from which focused perception later emerges. A simulated camera movement demonstrates the impact of head orientation on visual perception. As the virtual head pans to the left, the perceived environment undergoes a transformation. This action illustrates how the visual field changes with shifts in head position. The simulation highlights the dynamic relationship between body movement and visual input. It effectively demonstrates the body's crucial role in directing and shaping vision. The changing scene reflects how our brain integrates head movement to construct our visual reality. The visual field, despite dynamic changes in perception, fundamentally remains constant. This constancy is observed even when the scene or gaze direction shifts. It demonstrates that the capacity for sight operates as a unified system. Vision is not fragmented or broken into separate parts by movement or shifts in focus. Instead, the brain integrates visual information into a coherent, continuous experience. This principle highlights the unitary nature of our visual perception. Human vision operates as a single, continuous field of sight. This demonstrates that our visual perception is not fragmented but integrated. The brain processes input from both eyes to create one unified image. This integrated visual faculty is fundamental to how humans perceive their environment. The concepts of left and right are fundamentally rooted in an individual's physical orientation. These spatial directions are not absolute, but emerge from the body's movement and perspective. This illustrates that spatial directions are inherently relative to the observer's physical position. Therefore, left and right are body-dependent constructs, not fixed points in space. Perception is fundamentally an undivided field, not fragmented by external factors. The act of seeing is inherently whole and continuous, without breaks or divisions. This concept emphasizes that our sensory experience is unified, not a collection of separate parts. It suggests that perception transcends individual objects or directions within a scene. Therefore, the field of seeing is understood as a singular, unbroken experience. A continuous perceptual space is a theoretical construct where all visual phenomena are understood to manifest. This concept posits a unified medium in which all images and sensory inputs appear. It signifies the foundational environment for all visual experiences. Within this space, diverse visual elements coalesce into a coherent whole. The concept of an edge of vision explores the limits of human sight. This exploration attempts to define where the visible world definitively ends. However, the visual field continuously extends, making a fixed boundary elusive. Therefore, A definitive edge where sight ceases is impossible to locate. The concept explores how visible forms manifest from an unseen origin. Objects are depicted as appearing against a background of vast, quiet darkness. This visual metaphor suggests that all discernible entities emerge from a deeper substrate. The darkness represents an undifferentiated foundational state. The emergence signifies the transition from potentiality to manifest reality. Darkness is conceptualized not merely as the absence of light. Instead, it serves as the fundamental background for all perception. This perspective positions darkness as a foundational space. It enables and facilitates the entirety of sensory experience. All visual elements, including colors, shapes, and movements, manifest within a foundational space. This underlying space serves as the essential container for all sensory input we perceive. It provides the framework within which every visual phenomenon is presented and experienced. Without this fundamental space, the organization and perception of visual information would not be possible. Perceptual space is a fundamental concept in understanding visual experience. It refers to the background or context within which all perceptions occur. Without this foundational space, no object or phenomenon could be perceived. This underscores its critical function in enabling all forms of visual perception. Attention can be deliberately shifted in visual perception. Initially, focus may be directed towards specific objects within a scene. This represents an awareness centered on individual elements or content. A conscious redirection of focus then occurs. The visual attention moves from the objects to the broader, open field behind them. This action illustrates a shift in awareness from the content to the surrounding context. The concept of open field refers to the fundamental canvas of perception. It represents the expansive, undifferentiated space where all phenomena appear. Becoming aware of this open field shifts focus from individual objects to the ground of experience. This awareness highlights the interconnectedness of all perceived elements within this field. It underscores the act of recognizing the underlying context of all sensory and mental events. Subtle visual cues indicate a change in an individual's state of awareness. These cues often include a noticeable slowing of the breathing rate. Concurrently, there is a quieting of the mind, signifying reduced mental activity. These represent the physiological and mental shifts associated with altered awareness. The metaphor of a projection room illustrates a shift in perspective. It compares being part of an audience in a movie theater. This audience is absorbed in the presented images and narratives. The shift involves stepping out of this audience experience. It signifies moving into the projection room to understand the source and mechanism of those images. The focus shifts to the light that creates projected images. This emphasizes that the underlying light or awareness is the true source. The source is distinct and separate from the images themselves. It highlights the fundamental nature of light as the origin of visual perception. A film reel projects a continuous sequence of changing images onto a screen. The light source illuminating these images remains constant and unwavering. This illustrates that while the world images undergoes constant transformation, the underlying awareness, light, that perceives it remains unchanged. The initial first-person view of the world is re-established. This perception is now informed by an understanding of the constant field. This reinforces the distinction between transient objects and unchanging awareness. It highlights the learned difference between dynamic elements and static consciousness. The space behind perception is not limited by physical boundaries or locations. This fundamental space is described as omnipresent, existing everywhere simultaneously. It signifies the universal and unchanging nature of the field of awareness. Within this boundless field, all experiences and phenomena unfold. Awareness itself remains unmoving, acting as the constant backdrop for reality. The entire world, in its dynamic complexity, emerges within this pervasive awareness.